sometimes it's just been so natural to us, we don't realize that we're, maybe a strong way to say it is we're cursing our future. You can curse your future or you can bless your future. So be careful what you say.
Joel Osteen is one of the most recognizable religious figures in the world. To millions, he is a source of hope, positivity, and encouragement. But behind the polished smile, massive crowds, and motivational sermons lies a growing list of controversies that refuse to disappear. From hidden money discovered inside church walls to backlash during Hurricane Harvey, lawsuits, government loan criticism, and questions about wealth, the image of America's smiling preacher has been tested again and again, yet somehow Joel Osteen always seems to recover. So how did he build this empire, and what exactly is hiding behind the perfect image? The unlikely heir. Joel Osteen was never supposed to become a preacher. That might sound impossible today, considering he leads one of the largest megachurches in America. But in the 1980s and 1990s, Joel was nowhere near the pulpit, while his father, John Osteen, stood on stage preaching fiery sermons about sin, salvation, and repentance. Joel stayed hidden behind television cameras. For 17 years, Joel worked quietly in the background at Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas. He handled video production, edited sermons, and managed television broadcasts. Public speaking terrified him. According to people close to the ministry, Joel repeatedly turned down his father's requests to preach. He was comfortable behind the scenes. But everything changed in January 1999. After years of refusing, Joel finally agreed to preach a sermon at Lakewood Church. The response from the audience was overwhelmingly positive. Then, just 6 days later, tragedy struck. John Osteen died unexpectedly from a heart attack. Suddenly, Joel Osteen found himself thrust into leadership. The problem was that he had almost no formal theological training. Unlike many traditional pastors who spend decades studying scripture in seminary, Joel attended Oral Roberts University briefly before dropping out. Critics immediately questioned whether he was qualified to lead a church of that size. But Joel understood something many pastors did not: television. He understood presentation, branding, audience engagement, emotion. Instead of continuing his father's intense preaching style, Joel transformed the church experience into something entirely different. The sermons became simpler, the music became softer, the lighting became cinematic, and the message shifted away from guilt and judgment toward motivation and encouragement. Instead of hearing about suffering or sacrifice, audiences heard about victory, purpose, abundance, and destiny. Some religious scholars criticized the change immediately. They called it feel-good Christianity and accused Joel of watering down the gospel to attract larger audiences. But while critics complained, the crowds exploded. Within only a few years, Lakewood Church had completely outgrown its original building. Then came the move that changed everything. In 2003, Lakewood Church signed a long-term lease for Houston's former Compaq Center, a massive sports arena once used by the Houston Rockets. The church reportedly spent nearly $100 million renovating the building into a state-of-the-art worship center and broadcast facility. It was no longer just a church, it was a media empire. Every sermon became a production. Millions watched on television every week. Joel's smile became instantly recognizable worldwide. His message was intentionally uplifting because he understood something simple: people are more likely to return when they feel inspired rather than condemned. That strategy worked brilliantly. But critics believed something deeper was happening. They argued that Joel wasn't building a church in the traditional sense. He was building a brand, and soon that brand would become worth millions. The business of blessings. By the early 2000s, Joel Osteen had become more than a pastor. He was a global celebrity. Then, in 2004, he released a book titled Your Best Life Now. The book became a phenomenon. It remained on bestseller lists for years and sold millions of copies worldwide. Suddenly, Joel Osteen wasn't just preaching to churchgoers. He was reaching mainstream audiences through bookstores, television interviews, and motivational tours. The success transformed his finances dramatically. Although Joel often stated publicly that he did not take a salary from Lakewood Church, critics argued that the distinction was misleading, because while he technically gave up his church salary, his books, speaking events, and related ventures generated enormous personal wealth, and the church itself played a major role in promoting that brand. Every televised sermon acted as indirect advertising for Joel's books and tours. Millions watched him weekly, then purchased products connected to his message. Critics began asking an uncomfortable question: was Lakewood Church functioning as a ministry or as a marketing platform? The debate intensified as Joel's lifestyle became more visible. Reports revealed that Joel lived in a mansion worth over $10 million in Houston's wealthy River Oaks neighborhood. The home included multiple elevators, luxury amenities, and extensive private property. To supporters, there was nothing wrong with that. They argued Joel earned his money legally through book sales and publishing success. But critics saw hypocrisy. They pointed out that Joel preached prosperity while many church members struggled financially. Others questioned whether a pastor should live with that level of luxury at all. Then came another controversy involving church finances. Reports surfaced claiming that only a small percentage of Lakewood Church's massive annual budget went directly toward charitable outreach and missions. While exact numbers became heavily debated online, critics accused the church of spending more on production, operations, and broadcasting than traditional charity work. The criticism only fueled existing concerns surrounding prosperity gospel teachings. Prosperity theology teaches that faithfulness and positive confession can lead to financial blessing and personal success. Joel's sermons often focused on abundance, favor, and achieving your destiny. Supporters found hope in those messages, but many theologians strongly disagreed. They argued Christianity traditionally emphasizes humility, sacrifice, and service to others, not personal wealth. Yet despite the backlash, Joel's popularity kept growing. Then he took the business model even further. Joel launched nationwide Night of Hope tours, filling giant venues like Madison Square Garden, Yankee Stadium, and Dodger Stadium. Thousands attended to hear him speak live, but unlike traditional church revivals, attendees often had to purchase tickets. Critics accused him of commercializing faith. To them, charging admission to hear a sermon crossed a line. To Joel's supporters, however, the events were no different from conferences or motivational speaking engagements. The debate over money became endless. Then, social media made things even worse. A viral image spread online showing a man who resembled Joel driving a luxury Ferrari. The internet exploded with outrage, claiming it was proof the pastor was living extravagantly from donations. Later, it turned out the man in the photograph wasn't Joel at all. But by then, the damage was already done. The perception had become powerful. Joel Osteen represented a new kind of religious leader, polished, wealthy, media-savvy, and deeply controversial. And just when the criticism surrounding money began reaching its peak, another scandal erupted, this time involving his wife. Controversies take flight. In December 2005, Joel Osteen's carefully maintained image faced another public relations disaster. But this time, it didn't involve money. It involved an airplane. According to court documents, Joel's wife, Victoria Osteen, was aboard a Continental Airlines flight traveling from Houston to Colorado when tensions reportedly erupted over a stain on a first-class armrest. Flight attendant Sharon Brown later accused Victoria of becoming aggressive after requesting the armrest be cleaned immediately. The allegations quickly escalated. Brown claimed Victoria pushed her against the cockpit door and elbowed her during the confrontation. The accusations instantly generated national headlines because of the Osteen's celebrity status. The situation became deeply embarrassing for Lakewood Church. Victoria denied the allegations completely. Her legal team argued the incident had been exaggerated and portrayed the lawsuit as an attempt to gain money from a high-profile family. The case eventually reached civil court in 2008. Victoria testified emotionally, insisting she would never intentionally hurt anyone. In the end, the jury ruled in her favor and rejected the claims against her. Legally, she won, but the controversy did not disappear entirely. The Federal Aviation Administration later fined Victoria $3,000 for interfering with a flight crew member during the incident. For critics, the FAA fine suggested there had been inappropriate behavior despite the courtroom victory. And once again, Joel Osteen's public image took another hit, but even larger problems were approaching. In 2011, Lakewood Church became entangled in a copyright lawsuit involving a post-rock music group called The American Dollar. The band claimed the church had continued using their music in broadcasts, DVDs, and promotional materials after licensing agreements expired. They sought millions in damages, accusing the church of profiting from unauthorized use of their work. The lawsuit painted an ironic picture. A ministry built on positivity and encouragement was now accused of using copyrighted material without permission. Lakewood denied wrongdoing and fought the claims aggressively in court. Eventually, the church prevailed legally after a judge ruled the dispute largely stemmed from licensing misunderstandings. Again, Joel's organization escaped major financial damage, but a pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. Controversy after controversy emerged, yet somehow the Osteen brand always survived. That resilience earned Joel a nickname among critics, the Teflon Pastor. Nothing seemed to stick. No matter how intense the backlash became, Joel always appeared smiling on stage the next Sunday, speaking calmly about hope and positivity, as if nothing had happened. But then came a crisis far larger than lawsuits or headlines. a crisis that would test whether Lakewood Church truly practiced the compassion it preached. In 2017, Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston, and Joel Osteen would face some of the harshest criticism of his career. Hurricane Harvey and the public backlash. When Hurricane Harvey slammed into Texas in 2017, it brought catastrophic flooding that overwhelmed Houston within days. Entire neighborhoods disappeared underwater. Families became trapped inside their homes as water levels rose rapidly through streets and highways. Thousands of residents were displaced almost overnight, desperately searching for shelter, food, and safety. In the middle of the crisis, many people naturally turned their attention toward Lakewood Church, the massive Houston megachurch, led by Joel Osteen. The former sports arena could seat around 16,000 people and seemed like the perfect location to house evacuees fleeing the floodwaters. But the church doors remained closed. Lakewood Church initially released a public statement claiming the facility was inaccessible due to severe flooding surrounding the property. Almost immediately, however, social media users began questioning the explanation. Residents living near the church started posting photos and videos online showing roads around the building appearing mostly clear and passable. The backlash exploded across the internet. People questioned how one of the wealthiest and most influential churches in America could stay closed during one of Houston's worst natural disasters, while ordinary citizens were risking their lives to help complete strangers. Then another figure entered the story and changed the public conversation completely. Houston businessman Jim "Mattress Mac" McIngvale quickly opened his furniture stores to flood victims. He used his delivery trucks to rescue stranded residents from rising water and allowed families to sleep inside his showrooms on expensive mattresses and furniture. The comparison was devastating for Lakewood Church's image. To many critics, one local businessman appeared more compassionate and responsive than a multi-million-dollar ministry built around messages of hope, generosity, and faith. As criticism intensified nationwide, Lakewood Church eventually opened its doors to evacuees. News cameras soon showed volunteers helping flood victims, while Joel Osteen prayed publicly with displaced families inside the arena. But for many people, the response felt too late. Critics argued the church acted only after overwhelming public pressure forced them to. By that point, the damage to Joel Osteen's reputation had already spread across television and social media. Joel later appeared on national television defending the church's actions. During interviews, he insisted Lakewood had always intended to help and claimed concerns about flooding, safety, and logistics complicated the situation during the early stages of the storm. Still, many viewers remained unconvinced. The controversy became one of the defining moments of Joel Osteen's public image because it directly challenged the message he preached every week. Critics argued that a church centered around prosperity and positivity failed a major moral test when its community needed help the most. Supporters pushed back strongly against that narrative. They pointed out that Lakewood eventually did shelter flood victims and provided assistance to displaced families during the crisis. Others argued that social media outrage ignored logistical realities and unfairly targeted the church because of Joel Osteen's celebrity status. The debate became deeply divided and highly emotional, and before the controversy could fully fade, another major backlash arrived during the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2020, the federal government launched the Paycheck Protection Program, commonly known as PPP, to help struggling businesses and organizations survive pandemic shutdowns. Then reports revealed that Lakewood Church had received approximately $4.4 million in government-backed assistance. The backlash was immediate once again. Critics questioned why a church associated with enormous wealth and a globally famous pastor needed taxpayer-supported aid intended to help struggling organizations remain afloat. Supporters defended the decision, arguing the program existed to protect employees and maintain operations during economic uncertainty. Eventually, Lakewood returned the money, but public criticism continued. By now, controversies surrounding Joel Osteen had become almost constant. Wealth, luxury, government aid, public relations disasters. Increasingly, critics believed Lakewood Church operated more like a corporation than a ministry. But then, years after an unsolved theft inside the church, an ordinary plumber would stumble onto a discovery so bizarre that it reignited national scrutiny all over again. And this time, the story sounded almost unbelievable. The hidden money and the future of Lakewood. In November 2021, a routine plumbing repair inside Lakewood Church turned into one of the strangest discoveries in the church's history. A plumber named Justin Corley was working on a loose toilet inside the massive Houston megachurch when he noticed something unusual behind a wall. As he removed a loose tile, hundreds of envelopes suddenly began falling out from inside the wall cavity. At first, It looked unreal. The envelopes were stuffed with cash and checks, many of them damaged from years hidden behind the wall. Almost immediately, investigators connected the discovery to a shocking unsolved mystery that had haunted Lakewood Church since 2014. 7 years earlier, nearly $600,000 in cash, checks, and donation slips had mysteriously vanished from the church safe. At the time, the theft made national headlines because of both the amount of money involved and the unusual circumstances surrounding the case. Police believed it was likely an inside job because there were no signs of forced entry, no broken locks, and no evidence that anyone had physically broken into the safe area. Detectives interviewed employees, reviewed surveillance footage, and searched for leads, but the case eventually went cold. The missing money was never recovered, and no suspect was officially charged. Over time, the mystery faded from public attention, becoming just another unresolved scandal connected to one of America's most famous churches, until Justin Corley opened that wall. News of the discovery spread instantly across television and social media. People became obsessed with the bizarre details. How could hundreds of envelopes filled with money remain hidden inside a church wall for 7 years without anyone noticing? Who hid them there? And perhaps most importantly, why were they hidden inside the wall of a bathroom? The discovery reignited criticism and conspiracy theories online. Some people speculated that the money had been hidden intentionally by someone with insider access. Others questioned whether more information about the theft had been kept from the public. But despite renewed attention on the case, investigators still never announced any arrests connected to the stolen money. What happened next added another layer of controversy. Justin Corley did exactly what most people would consider the honest thing. He immediately reported the discovery and turned everything over to church officials and authorities. Many people praised him for his integrity, especially considering the enormous amount of cash involved. But according to later interviews, Justin felt disappointed by how the church responded afterward. Although he reportedly received a reward through Crime Stoppers, an organization connected to the investigation, Justin publicly stated that he expected at least some direct acknowledgement from Pastor Joel Osteen himself. Instead, he claimed he never personally heard from him. For critics of Lakewood Church, the situation became symbolic of a larger issue. They argued it reflected a disconnect between the warm, compassionate image projected on stage and the way situations were handled behind the scenes. Supporters, however, argued that church leadership likely wanted to handle the matter privately and professionally. But before the controversy surrounding the hidden money could fully disappear, another tragedy placed Lakewood Church back under national scrutiny. On February 11th, 2024, shortly before a Spanish-language service was scheduled to begin, a woman entered Lakewood Church with a weapon. Authorities say off-duty officers working security responded quickly after shots were fired inside the building. The suspect was killed at the scene. Tragically, her 7-year-old son was critically injured during the incident. The shooting shocked both the congregation and the wider public. For many people, churches are supposed to represent peace, safety, and refuge. The idea that violence could erupt inside one of the most famous churches in America left many deeply unsettled. Almost immediately, questions began circulating about security measures at Lakewood Church. Critics wondered how someone armed with a weapon managed to enter such a high-profile building despite visible security presence. Others argued that the rapid response from officers likely prevented an even greater tragedy. For Joel Osteen, the incident became another moment of intense public scrutiny. As the face of Lakewood Church, he represents not only the ministry's spiritual message, but also the institution itself. And with each new controversy, criticism surrounding the church continues to grow. Supporters still see Joel Osteen as a positive figure who inspires millions with messages of hope and encouragement. Critics see something entirely different, a carefully managed brand built around image, wealth, and public relations. And perhaps that is why Joel Osteen remains such a polarizing figure in modern American culture, because depending on who you ask, he is either a motivational pastor bringing hope to millions, or the face of a religious empire where faith and business have become impossible to separate. Either way, the questions surrounding him are not going away anytime soon. Outro. Joel Osteen's story is one of fame, influence, controversy, and resilience. Few religious leaders in modern history have managed to build a platform as massive as Lakewood Church, while also facing this level of public scrutiny. From hidden cash discoveries and lawsuits to Hurricane Harvey backlash and debates over wealth, every controversy has chipped away at the carefully crafted image of the smiling preacher. Yet despite it all, Joel Osteen remains one of the most powerful televangelists in the world. Whether you see him as an inspirational leader or a symbol of prosperity gospel excess, one thing is undeniable: people cannot stop talking about him. But now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Joel Osteen can still protect his reputation, or are the controversies finally catching up to him? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more videos like this.